Hey guys, Jay here, and today I want to record this video for the build that I am playing right now. I will intentionally, try to kill everything and then try to solo Kosis in a situation so we can see like in the worst case scenario, right? Okay, so here Kosis jumped here. I will try to avoid him and try to basically kills everything. So there's only one monster left, and he have no health loss basically, or mostly no health loss. Okay, so I think this actually is good enough, right? Okay, so let's do it. Right here, there's two monsters left. One is probably in the corner somewhere, and this is just me fighting Kosis. I have the penance mark on it, so it is this ring over here, Hateful Cursor. And let's see how the current character deal with Kosis, basically. Right? This is like the worst case scenario that we can like encounter. So normally, randomly, you will run into this situation in the simulacrum sometimes when Kosis spawn in like a corner somewhere, and you happen to just kill everything else, and he is basically there like 1v1ing you, and that is the worst case scenario for the Casper stun build already. And as you can see, I deal with it pretty well. This version is slightly upgraded from the previous video that I have showed you guys. The gears are mostly the same. There is one like slight upgrade here, which is the amulet here. Before, I do not have +1 level to all coast skill gem. Now I do. The amulet is still basically the same, except it does have +1 level to all gems. So it does give you a little bit more damage. I would say around 9 to 10% something. There is a monsters like hiding somewhere, which is annoying sometimes in the simulacrum. Okay, yeah, it is in this corner over here. And that is wave 15. It is the last wave in a simulacrum. As you can see, there is no more waves, so that is wave 15. And let's get to the actual character, how I set it up, and what kind of changes that I've made. And as you may notice, the amount of damage that we have actually like significantly increased from the previous one. It is a little bit more, investment into the character. However, I think it is very, very, very well worth it. And first of all, disclaimer, this build is not good for everything, for doing everything in the game. For example, it is super bad at doing like pinnacle bosses. At least the previous version, I would try to do like some pinnacle bosses myself with this character, because this time we do have the cursor ring, which in theory should help with single target damage. However, I don't think it is like a good boss killer or something like that. Maybe now it can do it, but it will be like on an average speed, I would say. So you should not be like spamming bosses on this character. And for speed mapping, by the way, normally for mapping, all I do is I switch out the sulfur flask here for a quicksilver, and it just helped me run quicker through maps basically. And it is an okay mapper, but I think the best thing that this build can do is still like some content that you probably stand in the middle of a circle like a lot of the time, like ultimatum, you AFK ultimatum, and ritual, things like that, right? Delirium's also very good. Beyond is also good. Just add more mob density into the map, and you will basically try to walk through the map, explode everything on the way, and loot whatever you want, right? So that disclaimer out of the way, this video is going to be including me going through the current character that I have in game, and then I will open up the POE. I will show you like the 3 versions of POE that I think are like the 3 stages of this build. The first one is going to be like the starter one. The second one is going to be the mid-budget, which is the current character. Actually, the POE is slightly less upgraded than this character. It is the character from my previous video, but it is sort of like in the middle kind of budget. And the last one is going to be the rich version, which is going to be like Mage Blood and, double corrupted items, best in slot item that you can try to get if you want to really min-max the build, in my opinion. At least how it works, right? So let's get to this current character. The most important thing here that I want to mention at first is this build, at least this particular setup, have a bunch of like mandatory unique items. Luckily, none of them are really like tier 0, tier 1 unique item or something. There are plenty of them on the market, and you should be able to buy them pretty much at around the same prices as they are right now. There should not be like a significant jump in prices on most of the items, not all of the items. But I will start with the two pieces that actually are not mandatory, which is the Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame. These two jewels, if you don't have it, the build will still function just fine. It will be slower in terms of farming because the explosion does help you to speed up the encounter, like a Simulacrum by a lot when you explode a lot of monsters close together. And also sometimes it does speed up the speed that you can kill the boss as well, because it explodes something on the boss and it will deal an extra chunk of damage. But you don't need those two, the Forbidden Flesh and Flame, for the build to work. It is super nice to have them though, I have to say that, right? But the function of the build does not require you to have the Forbidden Flesh and Flame. So because of these items are very like low in supply on the market, so it is very prone to like price changes. And in the past, in the last not the last league, but the previous one, the Affliction League, I made this AFK build a different setup from this one, but you know, roughly I use a lot of the same item, and the price of the Forbidden Jewel jumps from 1 divine each to somewhere like 80 to 100 divine, right? So people was rich up back then. The price jumped to the moon and people still buying it, and basically there's nothing left on the market at some point. So yeah, keep that in mind. If it is too expensive, it is out of your range, don't worry, the build still function just fine. Just put into random like rare jewels and with like live resistances, something like that, should be okay. Or if you want to use Forbidden Jewel, Thessalios Cleansing Water is a super good Forbidden Jewel. Currently they are still 1 divine as well. It is the node that gives you extra resistances, extra lightning and cold resistance, equal to half of your fire resistances. So basically every point of fire resistance, you are having like double the value. Half of it as cold, half of it as lightning. Very good for this build because you are pretty hungry for resistances as you are using the Annihilating Light, right? So that out of the way, now let's come to the core item of the build. First of all, Annihilating Light. This staff have a very strong upside and a very heavy downside as well. The strong upside here, it is like a undisputed most amount of damage you can have from a weapon in the game, because deals triple damage, is a 300% multiplier. Effectively, there's nothing else in the game that can compare to that, like literally. So with just this one item, you have a lot more damage, and that will help you to break through the threshold to be able to like effectively AFK in the Simulacrum. I have been using this weapon a lot, and it is pretty great as long as you can overcome the downside of it. The downside is 60% to 70% actually. So this is actually the max roll. 60% reduced elemental resistance. I would recommend you to try to get max roll or like close, like 61, 62, maybe 63%. It will be very great, right? Why? Because, well, each 10 point of resistances you are having in the build now effectively just become 4. So 10% fire resistant, for example, you will only have 4% resistances. If I remove the staff over here, as you can see there, my resistances is a lot more. The overcap resistance you can see here, it jumped from like just a little bit over 80%, 90% to 200 something percent. That is massive, right? Sorry. So in order to overcome this staff, we need to have a lot of resistances in the build, but that is going to be the next part. But I will continue with the core unique items that is required. Valerium, this item is like almost, if not absolutely mandatory for cast when stun. There's another way that you can get around cast when stun to change the stun threshold into something else that is not your life, which is the Skyforth. But Skyforth is a bad item for this build. Period. It removes the ability for you to regen, and regen is a super strong thing in tanky build. You want to, you know, recover your health because you are taking a lot of hits. So Valerium is hands down the best one. Hands down the best one. The downside is nowhere near as much as the Skyforth, and also it is a very common item. Skyforth, even though it's dog shit right now, it is a very rare item. So Valerium is going to be my choice of ring here. And personally, I think the best actually implicit for corruption is what you see here, plus 15%. I think it is plus 14 to 16% all elemental resistances. Because we are very hungry for resistances, so this helps a lot, right? Try to get it. If you don't get it, you know, don't worry. If I remove this one, look at this one, I am losing out on the fire resistant, but fire resistant is because of the normal roll of fire resistances here. The other resistances is still fine, right? And that is without Flask. So it is nice to have, and if it is cheap enough, get it. If it is expensive, fuck it, don't get it, right? Just keep that in mind. Next piece of what I think is a mandatory item, the Brass Dome. The Brass Dome is kind of buffed this league with the changes to quality. Before we get like somewhere a little bit over 4,000 armor. Now we can get actually very close to 5,000. I have a 4,851 armor here, and it's not even like maximum yet. It can be like 5,000 if you get the absolute maximum, but the main thing that you want to care about here is just the plus 5 to all maximum elemental resistances. The implicit corrupted here is not required. It's not at all significant. I just happen to corrupt this chest myself and hit it, but it is like less than 1% in the total damage that we are having, so do not worry about it. Just get a normal one. I would recommend you to get a corrupted one with 5% maximum elemental resistances and as high armor as possible. But why corrupted? Because corrupted you will have way easier time to actually recolor the chest into what something that you want, right? Next item is the Hateful Accursor. The Hateful Accursor here gives you the Penance Mark. Penance Mark is this ability here, so it is a mark skill. So if you cast this one on a target, normally it's a boss like Kosis in the Simulacrum, whenever you hit it, it will spawn up to 3, by default, up to 3 Phantasm monster. The monster there will attack you with like a projectile physical attack, which is actually very weak. You don't have to worry about it. It will help you to, first of all, trigger cast when stun because you have very low stun threshold. So those will still trigger cast when stun. And secondly, at least in this like mid-budget or low-budget setup, our Flask is gain 2 charges or like gain 3 charges when you're hit by an enemy. So these Phantasm actually also help you to sustain Flask charges infinitely. Sorry. It does help a lot, especially in the case of like Kosis channeling the beam. Normally, if you are not having, if you are having this kind of Flask setup with the charges on hit, when Kosis jump into the channeling phase, Kosis will stop hitting you in any form, and that Flask might run out, and then on his jump slam right after the channeling phase, you might get one shot if your Flasks are not all up, and this like entirely remove that problem. The Accursor ring here is super nice addition to this build in this league, right? So those are the core unique items that is required. There are 2 more required unique items that they are jewels. So the first thing is going to be Blood Notch. Blood Notch, the second one obviously is going to be Immutable Force. And by the way, personally, Blood Notch, maybe you can try to get a nicer roll. That is very good. But Immutable Force, actually, you don't need to worry about the roll. Especially if you just stand in the Simulacrum. The reason is, well, in the case that you need a lot of DPS, you don't really like cast on the max trigger rate anyway. Is when you like fight solo bosses or things like that. So just get a random one, like a mid row is okay, even the low row is okay. To start out, just don't worry about this for long. I have been using this row since the start. It is fine, right? So don't worry about getting like a threshold breaking of 961% or things like that. Yeah, do not give a shit about that, right? That is mandatory. The other jewel that is going to be very nice here is the Elegant Hubris for Caspiro. Do not try to get the exact number that I'm having here, right? What I will recommend you to use is to try and find either like 10% chance to gain Frenzy Charge on hit. I think this is hands down the best mod that you can look for. In this 1, 2, and 3 slot, if you can get just one of the gain Frenzy Charges, it is already super good. If you do not have a Frenzy Charge on hit on these 3 slot, then try to get like spell damage. Just 1 node is okay. 2 is good. The things that can be good here is what I have here: Frenzy Charges, live, spell damage. You can get resistances, chaos resistance, super nice. Fire resistant, lightning, any kind of resistances. You can also get like armor. It's going to be super strong as well. So don't worry about getting the exact timeless jewel as I'm having here. Sure, it does affect the amount of damage that you deal, but if you have everything else, this is not gonna be like make or break the build in any way, right? You will still have enough damage. The main thing here is we have this timeless jewel Elegant Hubris to commemorate Caspiro, is to get the Supreme Ostentation Keystone. This allows us to ignore attribute requirement. Why do I go for the Supreme Ostentation? Because I am using Brass Dome. Brass Dome have a downside of strength, provide no bonuses to maximum life. So all of our strength in the skill tree is useless. And because tattoo now exists in the game permanently, at least for now, as we know, right? At least this league, it is permanently in the game. Then, well, we can tattoo all the strength node that we have as fire. By the way, oh, I still have one node here that I can give fire. Okay, so by the way, when I first do this one, it is 1 chaos. Right now, it's like 10 chaos per tattoo already, but it's not too bad, right? This is probably a total of like 1 divine worth of tattoo at the current prices. So it's not too bad, right? The intelligence point we also don't need. Right now, I am putting them all on like lightning resistances. This also gets a little bit pricey. So if you already have enough resistances, you don't need to do it. You can get like a reduced effect of curse. Yeah, anything. Or if you don't need to, you don't even need to tattoo them, right? It is nice to do eventually though. So yeah, the other item that I think is very nice as a unique is Natural Affinity. This allows you to have the Nature's Patient. This will give you 1% less damage taken per Grasping Vine. You can get up to 10 Grasping Vine from this jewel alone, but if you combo this also with this boots over here, Inextricable Fate, this 1 maximum endurance charges at the moment is still less than 1 divine, right? It is super cheap, plus 1 divine boots, plus 1 endurance charges boot, and also to combo with this, this also allowed you to have a separated set of 10 Grasping Vine, which means you can potentially get up to 20% global, less damage taken. This applies to everything, including like all types of damage, elemental, physical, chaos. It also freaking include damage over time, which is super good. I really like this one, especially if you are planning to, you know, farm a lot of Simulacrum, just trying to chill, basically. So this is a very nice addition to the build. I think you should get it, right? So those are all the unique items that is required. The rest of the items are rare items here. 1, 2, 3 only. Most of them are just life and resistances. You will try to get as much armor as possible, but it's not going to be the end of the world. You don't have a lot of armor here because most of your armor is going to be from Brass Dome, and then the fact that you are a Juggernaut. Armor from equipped body is doubled. So most of your armor will be coming from here, right? So yeah, that is the gear. The flask here, normally for Simulacrum, I will run this flask. So you need to have one increased armor. It is recommended to have a leech, damage taken leeches life as well. Regen is good, curse effect is good, and some elemental resistances is good, right? So it doesn't need to be exactly like armor on this flask or damage taken leeches life on this flask. It can swap around, but as long as you have these mods, you'll be good, right? The other affixes is always gain charges when you are hit by an enemy. I would recommend you to get 2 or 3. 1 it might be a little bit inconsistent, so 2 or 3 is good. So those are the rare items. On the skill tree here, there is still 2 jewels that previously I didn't have in the build, and it is the recent upgrade that I have got. It does change the skill tree a little bit. I do trim a few points here and there in order to get this section of the skill tree, but it's very well worth it. So as I see I have enough tankiness, I remove this section of the tree. I move through to get blood magic this way, so it is shorter. I don't get to go through all the way here. I do cut some point here and there. I will get probably I will get 1, 2, 3 as my last point. Right now I'm level 96, right? So 1, 2, 3, and yeah, I'm not sure which is the last point that I get. The worst case scenario, I will get a 6% life. That's not the end of the world. No, I will get this one. 5% life and 6% fire damage. And then 1, 2, 3 here for some AoE and some damage. So yeah. This section over here is the combo of Unnatural Instinct. This jewel is a little bit under 5 divine at the moment, right? It was like 8 to 10 divine the previous time I checked. It is going down, so right, I have some money and I decided to put this one in the build along with the Light of Meaning. The effect of curses is completely useless, so don't worry about it. Okay, so this does not allow you to actually get the fire damage roll here, but get the fire damage roll. This one I bought for just 50 chaos. And this combo of jewels here, right here in this area of the Unnatural Instinct, as you can see the number on the second line here, 126% fire damage, increased fire damage. That is super massive. And also, not only that, but it also gives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and potentially 12. So 12 points of 6% fire damage. That is 72% additional fire damage that you have from this jewel. Plus this one, 126, plus the 3 tattoo that previously we don't have here. You are looking at 212% or something close to that amount increased fire damage from this section over here. And it is a massive, massive amount of damage. It does brings down the time that you need to farm the Simulacrum significantly. If you don't have the budget for this jewel, well, it's not the end of the world. Previously, I did show a video that I run full Simulacrum, and that is without this whole setup. But right now, I think it is totally worth it, and it is the absolute best next upgrade from that state of the build, right? So yeah, in terms of Ascendancy, I'm being a Juggernaut. I think a Juggernaut is the hands down the tankiest class naturally in the game. The Untiring is super good. This node allow me to not having to use Define Destiny. If you are a chieftain, if you want to tank like this, you need Define Destiny. And I have been using that for too much. So I would like to not having to use it, right? So this will allow me to have an amulet that actually give me some damage instead of just tanking it like Define Destiny. Untiring, super, super good. However, you are relying on this, so there's no way you can run maps with no regen. But normally you can just avoid it, and mostly you run Simulacrum with this build anyway, so not big of a deal, right? Unbreakable, obviously super strong. It gives you a lot of armor, and also it gives you some extra mitigation against chaos hit, which is very nice, super strong. Unflinching, free endurance charges, +1 maximum endurance charges. You will always have like maximum endurance charges in less than 1 second when you enter a fight, and it will, you know, last you forever. So endurance charges is heavily buffed this league. Super good. Highly recommend you to get it. Now the last point, well, if you need tankiness, you can go for this one, but personally I don't think it's worth it, because if you think about it, right now with this setup, I am having 7 endurance charges. There's no way I'm getting extra endurance charges from ring anymore. And maybe at the best thing, we can have like a double anointed amulet, which is super crazy and very hard to get. So you can still get Whisper of Doom, and then you can get Vigor. At the best case scenario, we are having at most 8 endurance charges, which means this node over here is only 7 to 8% damage mitigation to physical and elemental damage. It's not even all kind of damage. Even like the very bad Ascendancy node from, like, let's just say the occultist or the champion or things like that, if there is a reduced damage taken node or less damage taken node, it should be at least 10%. So this node I think currently is a very low value. What I like to get here is here for some additional increased damage. Not a lot of damage, but it is something. So 7 times 8 is 56% increased damage. Not too much, but it also gives some area of effect, which is pretty nice for clear speed. So this is currently my choice. I think it's also the best in slot right now, since this is a little bit underwhelming. In terms of power, this is also a little bit underwhelming, but it gives you AoE, which is like more overlap potential as well, and more basically quality of life. So I will go for this one, right? That is the Ascendancy. Skill tree. Well, here we are, right? Obviously, the first thing is obvious, that is we are trying to tattoo every single 10 attribute node. Actually, I should get this one. Let me go ahead and go for this one, right? Normally go for here, tattoo, fire damage. You can literally just type fire damage, you don't need to remember the name, and I'll buy it with kits, right? 16. Holy shit, what is happening? It is getting more and more expensive. All right, please don't blame me. I am innocent. I do not have anything to do with it. But anyway, it is what it is, right? Just try to tattoo your skill tree. This is not a very low budget build in terms of like newbie friendly. Like if you don't have any money, you can still get it going. No, it is a at least mid budget build. Right now, I probably put like 40 divine into the character, right? Tattoo everything here and tattoo everything here. So yeah, that is the first thing. Second thing, in terms of pathing, I would go through this way, grab. I would like to say something here, that you should not be doing this from start to finish of the character. You should do something like Righteous Fire for leveling, and then you eventually switch to this one around at least level 85, I would say. That is when you should be ready to like do content with this kind of cast and stun build. Because before that, you don't have like a lot of skill points, so you lack of damage, you lack of tankiness. There's a lot of problems that is potentially, you know, annoying with this character. So try to play this one from like level 85 and above, maybe even 90. So get Blood Magic, right? Get Endurance Charge, get the maximum here, get Avatar Fire. This mastery is for some maximum resistances. I choose the cold one because just to balance out a little bit. You can choose the fire one here as well. But I think I need cold a bit more than I need fire, so I go for it. Here I'm having Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on you if you have another source. For example, like a Corrupted Jewel or something. Then go for your elemental resistances cannot be lowered by curse. just to make sure, because we already are most of the time more than 100% reduced curse effect on our character, but just to be safe. Right, get this section, spend a point in this point if you have nice thing on these 3 nodes, because they are literally just 1 pointer on the way. So Supreme Ostentation here, go up. This section is probably the last thing I will grab, but you know the gist, I already explained it. Unnatural Instinct and the Light Up Meaning for fire damage here, right? Go up here, grab the mastery over here. Probably I will just show the mastery mostly. Here is hits have 25% chance to treat enemy monsters elemental resistances value as inverted. This is very, very good, very strong mastery overall, especially if you face like very high resistant monster. And you know, sometimes in Simulacrum you do have the increased fire resistances as a mod, and that is pretty tanky. This does help a lot with those, right? I would like to come here in this way, go through the cluster jewel, get 1 cluster jewel. Actually, the cluster jewel here mostly is to get 1 extra jewel socket, so I can fit in the Forbidden Flash and Flame. For the budget version, I will show you in the POE section in the later part of the video. You will see that I will only have cluster jewel here to get the Nature's Patient, just the small jewel here, right? So for early levels. Elemental Overload is 40% more damage, very good, do not skip it. Get the fire here, so the fire mastery here is crit do not inherently ignite, but you have 100% increased damage with hits against ignited enemy. Right here, right now, because we hit so many times, we do have some chance to ignite from here and here, 2 nodes, right? 30%. So we have a lot of hits, and we will always ignite the enemies, because ignite lasts for like basically 4 seconds. So yeah, I can just ignite them with my Frostbolt, my Tornado, Elemental Turbulence. The 2 main skill, Vortex of Projection and Ice Nova Frostbolt, are linked to Elemental Focus, so they cannot ignite themselves, but the other skill ignite, and we have 100% increased damage. This here grabs the recoup wheel here, very nice recoup, and recoup effect instead occur over 3 seconds. This means your recoup is 25% stronger over time. So the total amount of recovery is still the same, but it happened faster, so it's better, right? So the rest of the skill tree is very self-explanatory. You just see whatever is here, you grab it. There is a POE, so you can follow it. I will not go deep into every single choice, but we are getting damage and we are getting tankiness. That is pretty much everything, right? Here I go through mana because Unnatural Instinct, the allocated point doesn't give anything. We don't need mana, but regen here is nice, so yeah, go through here, right? That is the thing that I want to mention. So yeah, that is the skill tree. Let's go through the gem a little bit. So these 2 setups are for Ice Nova Frostbolt and Vortex of Projection. 2/6 link. They are the same exact support, so I will just go through 1. Added code, level 5 here for +1, very nice. Code to fire, I should get quality on this, right, for just a little bit of increased damage. It's not necessary. Cast when stunned, you should have 20/20 at least, for a maximum chance possible to trigger. Awaken Fire Pan for, you know, Fire Pan mostly, and then if you have level 5, it also is the source of exposure that you will have. Awaken Elemental Focus for more damage, and then +1 to level of the support gem. So level 24 projection here, and level 24 Ice Nova Frostbolt here as well. These are all triggered on Frostbolt. Frostbolt is linked to greater volley for more projectiles, so we have overlap, and this is better than GMP because GMP spread out the projectile, but the volley give them like side by side parallel thingy, so it's easier to overlap basically on single target. So I choose greater volley and return projectile. I think this is the best for single target because the projectile come back, so more projectile Frostbolt is potentially on the target. and it's easier to overlap because the Ice Nova and the Vortex is going to trigger on randomly some Frostbolt, right? Cast when stun, obviously. Flame Dash, a single link here for some mobility, and cast when stun. Punishment is the curse. Why punishment? It gives you defensive as is debilitate the enemy, so they deal 10% less damage, and also it makes enemy takes 55 up to 60% actually. I can get level 21 here very cheap. 60%, 58 here, increased damage on low life. Well, it works really well with the inverted mastery over here for elemental damage because it doesn't reduce the elemental resistances, and when inverted, it is better. Example is, for example, enemy have 100% fire resistances. If it is inverted, it is minus 100%. But if the enemy have only like 25% fire resistant, then if inverted, it is minus 25. So this mastery works well in the case that enemies have like high resistances. And for synergy, I like punishment. It is pretty good. It is tanky as well, right? And Tornado Elemental Turbulence. Why do I have this random skill here? Well, if you are penance marking on an enemy, right? There are a bunch of Phantasm. And the way that we are proccing Phantasm, for example, if Kosis is channeling, the best way to proc Phantasm is to have something that is continuously hitting Kosis. And this is a duration skill. So before he channel, you probably have 3 of these out, for a duration, and they will stay on Kosis, and they will keep hitting Kosis. It will keep spawning the, penance mark monster, and then, keep the chain going, basically. So I like this one. Yeah, and also visually I like it, so I used it. You can use multiple skill here, but then it's just only for the purpose of like hitting the enemy on downtime where they are channeling or doing something that they are not attacking you, or casting spells on you that hit you and trigger. So this is my choice of skill. You can use like any kind of other skill, but it should be a duration skill and it should hit a bunch of times, and I think this is probably the best choice, hands down, right? Last gem setup, Purity of Element to deal with all elemental resistances and also ailments. Ailments here including Sap, Brittle. Brittle actually doesn't do anything to our character, but Sap and Scorches. They are mods in the Simulacrum, and I want to deal with them. Normally, if you don't use Purity of Element, you cannot be like immune to Scorches and Sap. Sap reduce your damage by quite a lot, and Scorches reduce your resistances by quite a lot. So actually, Purity of Element is hands down the best in-slot aura in here that we can use. Link to Eternal Blessing, so it doesn't cost any reservation. It also disables your ability to use different auras, but you don't have a socket for more auras, and you don't need any other auras as well. Well, yeah, Eternal Blessing, Purity of Element. Free aura. Last 2 gems is Automation and Steelskin right now. For the budget version, this is an easy way to deal with bleeding, so I'm still using it, and sometimes it does give you a little bit more EHP when it's up. It is what it is, right? If you are like a Mage Blood version, this will change to a Molten Shell. So that is everything for the character currently, right? I will turn on Path of Building. And we'll show you the POE a little bit because I want to talk a little bit about the other versions. They are roughly the same. The mechanic is the same, but I want to go through, basically the gears and stuff, right? So here, let me do the starter version first. So the starter version is, I still don't figure out how to use loadout, by the way, so it's a little bit like clunky. So starting version here is a level 80 character, right? Require level 80, 103 passive here. This is going to be your skill tree, right? This is going to allow you to do like maps pretty comfortably. You can like AFK Simulacrum unless the map mods is very hard. For example, like minus max, a lot of physical as extra, so monster have a lot of damage. But normally in most map you can AFK like Ultimatum, Ritual to farm currency, things like that to level up. And this is the like probably the most vanilla setup. In this setup, we are either using a staff, a random staff, whatever staff that is not annihilating light, because you might not be able to have enough resistance. If you have enough resistances, go for annihilating light. But here I am using Doriani's Catalyst and Sappho's Frame. These two, actually, I used them for a little while in the starting of this character because it gives me some damage and some tankiness. Very nice, very comfy, and it's good enough for mapping overall, right? So basically, the core gears are the same except for the staff, right? And life resistance on the rare gears as usual. The skills here, you should remove the Ice Nova Frostbow because you don't have 2/6 link. If you use Yoriani, I use the Vortex of Projection alone for a while. I think it is the better spell in the 2. Luckily, it's also the cheaper spell in the 2. So you can put Ice Nova in like a 4-link or something. It's okay. Just change it around a little bit, right? So it's not the end of the world. But you will quickly move to the middle version, which is what I have just showed you in the video. So you can check the video, or I will leave the POE in the description so you can recheck it, right? What I want to show you here is the rich version. This is going to be the end game version. The maximum, probably like most ridiculous things you can have. And skill tree wise, still the same. Still the same as what I showed you in the video, except all the jewels are like stupidly corrupted, double corrupted. So aim for, max roll, everything, things like that. Yeah, but basically it's the same tree, right? Skill basically the same except for O level 21 or Awakened Gem level 6 maximum quality. That is just like that. I also put the count here at like 50. Why do I put 50 here? This is only for the rich version, by the way, so the number looks very ridiculous. Normally I put like 10 times less than this in the other version. But I will explain why I put it here. At maximum trigger rate, right? You are casting Cast When Stunned every 0.1 second, which is 10 times per second. That is the cast time. And then Vortex of Projection each time it is triggered. If it is triggered on Frostbow, it is triggered up to 5 times. You can see on the actual gem here. So one single trigger is 5 projections. So every second is 50 Vortex of Projection. Same apply to Ice Nova, but Ice Nova only is 4 times. 4 times 10. 40. So the number looks ridiculous here, but this number is just for show. What matters is what happened in the game, right? And I just showed you in the game in the beginning of the video already. So yeah, all the gems here, just remember 21, 23, level 6 on Awaken, you're Gucci, right? The gear, Annihilating Light with 30% area of effect. Actually, there is no real second good corruption. So yeah, I think this is already best in slot. You can have also, by the way, you can have the Harvest Crafting Bench to change the quality of the staff into like either AOE or elemental damage. Both is fine, right? This is a stupid fucking helmet. This is the new base. If I have max roll on everything here, it gives you over 2,000 armor. Jesus. And of course, highest tier of Eldritch Empresses as well. So look for this one. Brass Dome with double corrupted, +1 level of Socketed Gem, and +2 level of Socketed AoE Gem. So yeah, kind of crazy. Probably like a few hundred divines. Gloves, still life resistances, armor. I don't have double armor roll because in here I want to craft the 40% increased damage while leeching. it actually is 40% increased damage. Damage is good. We need more damage to be like dealing more damage, right? Inextricable Fate, max roll, obviously, plus 1 endurance charges, but the second double corruption is 6% life, so yeah, aim for it. This amulet, probably the best in slot, life, resistant, level of cold skill gem. Maybe if you go crazy, you reflecting missed it, and you might have like double everything. I don't know, man. There's no way anyone is going to be able to do it, but it is technically still a possibility. So yeah, this thing, right? Over here. Valerium cannot be poisoned and 16% all elemental resistances. Hateful Accuser should not be corrupted. Actually, I should be using this Hateful Accuser, right? So the Hateful Accuser here with 20% quality, that is Fertile Catalyst, it gives you 12 more life on a max roll. Nothing more than that, right? So it's just being like a little bit stupid here. Mage Blood, double corrupted, 8% life and 10% area of effect. I think this is the best one. And obviously, the Flask is all Mage Blooded, right? The Flask here, we can have immunity to bleeding and corrupted blood. So this is like 2 birds, 1 stone, very nice. Otherwise, it's still the same armor, leech, taken, and regen, and progenesis. Right? All the jewels are like crazy double corruption. So yeah, basically this is just a little bit of like the end game version, because there are some people who have a lot of money are asking for this. So I just want to show them what you can potentially try to min-max this one for. And by the way, if you want to not really use a button, which is the what is it? The penance mark ability. If you don't even want to use it, slap in a original sin in here. You will still have enough damage, more than enough damage. You have crazy damage compared to what I have here. So you don't need to press the extra button. You don't need to like sustain flash charges with the Phantasm because you have Mage Blood. So go ahead, be yourself, be luxury and use the original sin that you have. You can use it here. It will save you 1 button press. I think it's roughly the same amount of damage, maybe slightly less damage, but it will be 1 less button and it will be true AFK, right? So the gem, you also will need to change the fire penetration into void manipulation, and also on the skill tree you need to remove the avatar fire here. Just get 1 random life point, for example here, just get 6% here if you use original sin. Remember to remove this shit and you're okay, right? So yeah, that is everything I want to share with you in this video. It is a very long video as per usual of my like build guide video, but if you stay until this point, thanks you very much for watching, and I hope you like the content. I hope you think this is helpful to you or interesting in some way somehow. Leave a like if you do, and subscribe to the channel. I will be releasing more content on this build, like kind of showcased in different encounters. Also trying to min-max it a little bit more in terms of like trying to do other content other than just trying to AFK this one thing. I tried a tier 17 and I died twice, but I can AFK the boss of, I can mostly AFK the boss of the Abomination map, right? There's one phase that I cannot AFK, and that is the 2 death, which is the, I think the Chevron, no, not Chevron, the lightning thing, the lightning boss that levitate and then shoot a bunch of balls of lightning onto your character. I could not tank that phase, but other than that I tanked the whole map, and I tanked the final boss, the Trinity something. But tier 17 is doable, but it's very freaking annoying. I just don't want to roll it, so I just don't want to deal with it. If you want to, this is totally doable. Just avoid the mods that has like a lot of damage that is stacked on top of each other. If you don't have enough budget, if you have like the end game build, you probably can tank everything, but a lot of damage is not doable. Any source of like remove your recovery is not doable, and reflect is not doable. So for tier 17, that is it. I will not deal with set tier 17. I refuse to do it. They did remove back to basic, but I think tier 17 is still dog shit to deal with. Absolute dog shit. I hate the fact that we need to roll it like what we do right now. So yeah, stay tuned for more content on this build. And also, I am cooking up like new interesting idea for 0 button build, or maybe sometimes like 1 button build, but they are going to be like hipster. They are going to be like a little bit like for science projects. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in some like weird, mechanically weird and hipster build, right? Again, thanks everyone for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and peace.